Welcome to Consciousness Chronicles. I am here with my beautiful friend, Millie America. I am Linda Christine, and we are here to talk about random subjects, spiritual, non-spiritual. We pull them out of the magic jar. So the intention of this podcast is to bridge the gap between the spiritual novice and the conscious veteran. And we're all here to learn. We're all here to enjoy the planet, right? So
Laugh along the way.
and we need your help in filling this jar up, people.
No, it's coming to an
Okay. I
end.
mean, really, come on. Okay. Today we get healing. Healing.
Well, that's a huge scope.
Yeah, I mean, go anywhere with it.
Healing is as simple as getting outside and going for a walk. Let's not even complicate this. Let's just make it as simple as 3D as we can. Healing is when you trust in something that's bigger than you and not have to, just don't even doubt it. You know, we can go from there all the way to healing thyself because of a illness, or healing because of a trauma, or healing because of financial losses, or healing because you separated from your loved one or your family, or had a divorce or a death in the family. Healing is moving through the most difficult parts of your life into something that isn't so difficult. It's not easy, but yeah, it's trusting. What do you think healing is?
Healing is not something you can find outside of yourself. You can go to somebody for assistance, for guidance, for clarity, for perhaps moving something through the body that you're not able to identify. But when it comes down to it, it's all on you.
Mhm.
The most frustrating thing that I see is people going to healers going, well, it didn't work. It didn't have any effect on me. It's like, well, how did you participate in that? Did you participate in that? Because if you're
Mhm.
not, it's not going to come from outside of you.
So, when I think about my healing journey, I think about two things. First, I was born with a heart issue. And in my mother's fear of losing me, it was a constant front row seat to anything I did and everything I did. It was constantly brought up to me. You have to sing like your father. You can't do this, you can't do that. And I remember, because of my stubbornness, going, yeah, no, I'm not going to own that. I remember being little and going, that doesn't affect me. I don't know. To this day, if you ask me all the different names that I've been told by cardiologists that I have or don't have, I can't name them, because I don't own whatever that is ever. I had three sisters that died of breast and ovarian cancer on my father's side. And so I started having issues with my breasts in my 20s. I decided that I wasn't going to go the normal route of doctors. And even though I was just starting to open up, I was going to cure myself. And you know what? I would go to the doctor every 4 or 5 months to get mammograms, because I kept a close eye on it, but I did not own all the stuff that was told to me. I also knew that in order to heal, I had to actually look at the wounding of why I was having breast issues or heart issues.
Mm.
And so that took years of really going deep. Who is attached to me, or who am I attached to, that is not giving me the nurturing that I desire and I need? Once I made the conscious decision at 40 to change my life around and finish in a partnership, and my mother also passed on, I have not had a single breast issue in 16 years.
Mm.
And I don't even go to the doctor. I mean, I don't even go
Yeah.
I think the last time I had a mammogram was like 3 or 4 years ago. And from somebody who lived with that most of her life to making the conscious decision, look, it's not magic.
Mm.
When I start feeling something, I don't freak out. I start saying, I lather up with castor oil and I call it a day and I call it a week and I call it a month. And I am lathering that up and actually loving myself. What am I missing? When I start having irregular palpitations or I had a heart attack like I did last September, I can go back and go, my heart is broken. Why is my heart breaking?
Mm.
So because the issue is always going to go back to the tissue. What is your body telling you? So the healer, you can go to a million healers, but if you don't believe that they're just helping you heal, that they're not going to be the magic wand, why are you even going? And I think we need to have conventional, regular medicine, traditional medicine with that is unexplainable. I think it's a combination of both. I think it would be irresponsible for me to say, I'm never going to a doctor. No, if I have to go
And
to the doctor, I
Eastern
go to the
medicine
doctor.
too. I mean, some of that's amazing. The acupuncture
Absolutely.
is,
Absolutely. I mean, I've tried it all from craniosacral therapy to acupuncture, reflexology, massages,
somatic yoga.
what deprivation chambers, uh, you know what? There's nothing that I haven't tried. Plant medicine. At the end of the day, what might work for you is not going to work for me. Diet. I've done it. And when I get a knock somewhere in my body and my spirit starts saying, knock, knock, you got to pay attention to this. I really take it personally. Like I was a Starbucks junkie. I mean, everywhere, every country I went to, every place I went to, I had to go test to see how's there Starbucks over here. Okay, I'm just giving you an example. Back in September of 2022, my guy said, no more Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I didn't question it. I've
No.
not gone into a Starbucks, only to use the bathroom and maybe get something to eat, but I have not drank a single thing from Starbucks since then. That doesn't mean it's going to affect anybody else. What I do know is that when they're that clear, and as much as I loved Starbucks, coffee and tea, I've decided that that is not for me because I knew that it was going to affect some part of my body. And I'm really disciplined about once I know what I need to know, I cut it off. I have no problem with that. So healing comes in different levels and it comes through different ways. You have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
Because if you had your cancer journey now, you would have taken a completely different
Mhm.
path than
Absolutely.
you did years ago.
Yeah. And it's dis
Right.
in the body that manifests from something that could be emotional, could be past life, could be current. Uh, the colon, the stomach, all of that, those issues have to do with unresolved anger and resentment. And I'm quoting, what is it? What's our little secret book that we have?
Here, the secret here. I have it right here because I carry it with me everywhere.
This one?
That one and this one.
Yeah.
Both Louise Hayes
Both
and
these
Ina
are
Siegel.
good, you
Yeah.
guys.
Yep.
Um, but it's interesting when you look that stuff up to go, okay, how does this align with me? How do I feel about this? You got to use discernment and you got to start digging into it. And that's all that you can do.
I get an ulcer, a stomach ulcer. And the reason I'm sharing this with TMI, I don't care. You get a stomach ulcer.
If you're
I
here,
get
you signed up for it. That's what she tells me.
you sign up for it. That's it. I hadn't had one, ooh, maybe 3 years. And when I get them, I spend an entire month or so with the preliminaries of having stomach issues. And I can feel the burning. And then I have to hit and miss what I can eat or not eat. Well, it finally ruptured this past week. And when it ruptures, there's a sense of like, okay, now I can start healing. But for me to get to that point, I have to do so much work on myself, you know, take charcoal pills and tablets, and I have to, I can't eat certain foods. And I know that no matter what I do, if I don't get to the root of why I'm having this massive explosion and hole in my stomach, I'm not going to get to the bottom of it. Once I do, it releases, and then I can start healing. You have to know your body. You have to know that this is a vehicle, this is a vessel, and your soul chose this wonderful, beautiful vessel. When you start treating it like a car, you don't get in your car and not change the oil, because after 5,000 miles or whatever, it's going to stop working. You know that you're going to have to check your brakes, because if you don't, you're going to die. You have to put gas. You have to put gas after 300 or 400 miles, because otherwise it's not going to go anywhere. And yet we take advantage of this vehicle that is our transportation in this journey. And we go, we don't have to treat it that way. You don't treat your car that way.
Yeah.
You don't treat your house that way. I mean, I hope you don't. You don't even treat other people that way. And yet we're so hard on our bodies, and our bodies are constantly coming up and going, please address this. The engine light is on. Please address it, address it, address it. And you
Yeah.
just go, I'm not going
Well,
to,
you're knocked on your ass.
Yeah. I used to have this
Oh,
car. I used to have this car, and the engine light was always on, and I couldn't get it off. So I took a black magic marker
oh, Lord, child.
and I kind of like covered it up. So I never saw it again. And you know what? The car kept going. But if you're smart enough, you go and you find out, why is that engine light coming on? I think it was a fuse with the light. Nobody can figure it out. What I'm saying is, don't let your engine light come on and not go get help.
Yeah.
Every single thing that happens to you requires, whether it's a doctor or a healer or anybody or a friend or a therapist, because sometimes the root of it is such a deep emotional pain that is now transforming into something. So the healing is not a one size fits all. And it really does come, like you said, it comes from within. If you don't know what exactly is going on, then you need to sit down and figure it out with somebody that actually knows. So you might be a doctor or a healer or whatever, go do it.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
I might
Someone
have an answer.
someone said to me a while back, spiritual practitioners that haven't healed themselves should not be working with others. And I'll just give you my 2 cents on that. And I heard somebody speak about this recently. I can't remember who it was. It was somebody that's been around the spiritual block a bazillion times. But sure, you have to do some healing work, but I don't believe everybody that is here is going to be completely healed in this lifetime. It's an ongoing cycle. It's an ongoing thing that keeps coming up. Now, if you're closed to the idea of working on yourself and you just want to work with other people, there's probably a problem there. You should not always think that you know everything, because we all have things that we keep learning and we keep healing, and we just have to try to take care of ourselves as best we can, spiritually, mentally, physically, and assist others as clearly and as lovingly as we can. So that's my 2 cents. What do you think about that?
Like going to a doctor who's obese and he's telling you, you need to lose weight. He went to school. He knows better, but he obviously graduated from med school, and he knows, even though he's not taking his advice, he's really telling you, or he smells like cigarette. He's like, you shouldn't be smoking. And you're like, really, dude? Really? Really?
Yeah.
I really do feel that there are actually a lot of healers out there that are amazing at healing other people, but they don't want to deal with their own shit. I do not, I don't judge a person by that. Now, if I'm seeing that they're destructive with their lives and they're telling me not to be destructive with mine, I'm going to call them out on BS. Okay. I'm like, dude, seriously. I had a really hard time going to this is my first husband. We were young. and we went to a marriage therapist. It was a last resort, and
What was it?
for a marriage therapist, a marriage
Oh, oh,
counselor.
oh, oh,
We
okay.
went to a marriage or couples marriage counselor, and I sat there, and my husband at the time, we were very young, we were in our early 20s. He said to the woman who was Cuban, "How many times have you been married?" And the woman looked at him and said, "I've never been married." He looked at me, he goes, "And we're going to take advice from her?"
Ooh. Like, oh, yeah,
I
that's
said,
hard.
we're here, we're going to take advice from her, and then we're going to do whatever we need to do to fix this problem. And she gave great advice. But then, because he was highly intelligent and highly manipulative, we went twice. And the second time, he was like, So he said to me, if you want to move through this, you need to find somebody who's actually been married, preferably somebody who's actually divorced and got married again. So I could take advice from them. He had a point in
Yeah.
his young mind. He had a point. It's like me going to see a specialist, but the specialist never experienced anything. It would be hard. But at the same time, I do believe from the other side of being a healer myself and you, that I don't have to experience something to have some kind of communication with the divine to actually help heal that person. And I feel that to judge somebody because they've not gone through it or they're not fixing their life, you know what? Angels come in different shapes and sizes. And I can't deny somebody's knowledge because I am judging them for not having experienced what I experienced. Because the practitioner might be an amazing practitioner with everybody else because they have compassion for everybody else, but have zero self-love for themselves. They're still going to be amazing at giving love. They just are not willing to give it to themselves. And maybe that's part of their healing. Maybe part of their lesson is to actually look at themselves and say, I love everybody. I'm so great, but I can't see the light in me. And
Mm.
maybe it takes one client to really shift that around where they go, oh my God, thank you for being my teacher today. I think it takes humility.
Yes. There are so many puzzle pieces that go into the healing process too. Like you said, that made me think like you may have the love for others, but not for yourself, but somebody can come in and bring you that, or somebody you can run into in your life can make you aware of that need for you to love yourself. You just don't know where it's going to come from.
And Linda, even healing comes from giving a compliment to somebody. You don't know how you're healing somebody by just raising their spirit or even a smile. I mean, we're so caught up in the healing process that we don't even know that it comes in the smallest of dosages. Like, you being able to say to somebody, you look beautiful today, or opening the door at a store and going, even if they don't say thank you. I think that we take the word healing to such an astronomical sense that it has to be about healing the body or healing, but healing is a choice that you make every single day in contact with whoever you come in. If you come across somebody today and you feel that need to smile at them or say, God, you have beautiful eyes, you don't know the healing that you're possibly giving to that person who's having the worst possible day in their life. So it's either magnified or it could be minimized, but healing is available to us every single day.
Mm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love your shirt, by the way.
Thank you. What's the most miraculous thing that you've seen in someone's healing or in your own healing?
I birthed 2 children when I was told from very early on that I would never be able to have children.
Mhm. That's
And the
miraculous.
biggest fear I've ever had in my life, the biggest fear I think I've ever had in my life early on was, as much as I wanted children, it was the fear of actually being a mother. How am I going to screw these people? How am I going to screw them up? Let's see. No, I actually, the fear of going through the whole birthing process was scary to me. I had 3 miscarriages before Nelson was born, including his fraternal twin. Then I had a miscarriage between him and Patrick. And the possibility of not birthing children scared the shit out of me. And I kept hearing my mother and doctors, you're not going to be able to have kids. You're not going to be able to carry them. You're endometrial. Blah, blah, blah. Showed them. I did it. Those two boys were a miracle. They were a miracle because I know the day that I conceived them, and I know when they were born. They were exactly 9 months, exactly to the day, both of them. So I held on, and bad pregnancies, but I feel that was, what about you? What was the biggest miracle in your life?
In my life or that I've seen?
I want to hear about your personal life.
Yeah,
What was the
I
miracle?
don't, I, and I don't want to, go over this over and over again, but my cancer journey was
Yeah.
definitely, because it was the catalyst for so much change. Even though I thought I had made major change before that by divorcing my ex and moving through that, then it was like even more on top of that. It's like, no, the work's not done, just keep going. But as you were talking, it made me think, and another aspect of healing is that family lineage.
Yeah.
You
You're
know,
right.
what have you brought in from your paternal side or your maternal side that you are here to clear up that your generations before haven't been able to heal? That to me, that's been something I've been focusing on for the past couple of
Mhm.
years. My maternal side needs a lot of healing, and sometimes I'll tap into it and I'll just see the control and the anger and the resentment that I
Mhm.
carried coming through those generations, and releasing that and finding out where am I bringing that into my life now and how can I heal that? What about you?
Think it was about 14 years ago. I was living up in mountains, and it was winter. And the reason I say this is because I was waiting for my daughter to take her to work, and it was snowing, and I put on NPR, and they were talking about a study in one of the Ivy League schools for 20 something years. They had been following a group of 70 different people or 100 different people from their 20s into for like a long time, or in their 40s. And they wanted to correlate what caused dementia and Alzheimer's. And the study showed that those who had the biggest regrets and resentments in their life got dementia and Alzheimer's.
Wow.
We're not talking about vascular dementia or alcohol-induced dementia. We're talking about just regular people living their lives. And so I remember I was driving down the mountain, and it was, there was ice and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, oh no, I need to change my life. I cannot do this. Because I started thinking about the people in my family, ancestors, and the ones, including my mother, who got dementia and Alzheimer's, were people who had major regrets. A few years later, I became a guardian rep. Um, and I was in charge of overseeing elderly clients that were in assisted living and hospice and whatever. So I made it a point to ask those questions. And I realized the majority of them who had gotten dementia and Alzheimer's were people who had tremendous regrets and resentments in their lives. And they couldn't in their state of, they would remember things. And I would ask them, what do you remember? And they would have moments where they pop in and out, or they go into a loop. And years of asking the same questions, I came to my own conclusion. If you can't heal the things in your past, the regrets and resentments, you can definitely choose in the end of your life to forget about it all. And that's what dementia and Alzheimer's are,
Ooh.
where you actually shut up all that and you live in limbo. I don't want to be a problem or a challenge for my children, for any of the 8. I have done the best I can to continue healing, to get rid of any regrets and resentments in my life, so I don't end up like so many people in my family.
Hmm.
And what I find is when you release all those things and you come to terms that there were lessons, and there's nothing that I have done that had been that bad. And even if I did something bad, It's done. I've accumulated enough healing and enough knowledge to understand I went from here to there. That was a big wow moment for me 14 years ago. And
Mm,
to have had the experience of working with elderly clients to experience it firsthand, what that is actually truth. The more regrets and resentments you have, and I've seen it with people in their dying bed, where they actually snap back into their bodies and go, I did not get to say, I'm sorry. I did not get to do this. They have regrets about everything. You know what? The body will shut down. And the first thing it does is shuts down your mind.
mm.
So you clearing out your ancestral wounding, your ancestral issues is huge. That to me is like I have spent the last few years just clearing out any kind of karma or any kind of things that come up from my father or my mother or my grandparents on both sides. Some that I didn't never met because they died way before I was born. I remember looking for my grandmother America because America is my middle name, but when I got a divorce, I used it as my last name. And America was she died way before I was even. And I went looking for her on Ancestry.com. And I spent so much time getting to know her and how she lived by the little pieces because I have no one to retrieve that information except a few here and there that my father or my mother was saying. And from the outside, it looked like this woman had all her shit together. But the deeper I went, I realized, wow, she was a powerhouse and she went through so much. And so I've sat with her in meditation and in ceremonies to clear out that part of her because every ancestor, we have a DNA strand that comes through. So if you can't fix that, you're passing it on to the rest of people right after you. So I think healing comes, like you said, and that's a very huge awareness. Thank you for bringing that up because it really does make a difference when you start to, it ends with me. Whatever crap that my family brought to me, I want to be able to just say, okay, it stops here. I don't want it passed on to any of my children.
And I believe it's never too late because of the quantum field. You
Mhm,
can clear that in your past lineage and you can give it going forward to your children now.
mhm,
You will, if you clear it for them.
mhm,
So you're not, it's like, oh, it's too late for my kids. Now they have it. And no,
mm-mm,
that's
mm-mm,
not the
mm-mm,
case. You will clear
mm-mm.
it for you
Yeah.
and them.
Mhm.
And
Well,
the deceased, I mean, everybody, it's
everybody is releasing that. I mean, obviously, we all come in here with a set of massive lessons, and if we don't get it, those behind us will get it, those in front of us will get it. I mean, who knows? But what I do know is that part of my work is to not repeat the sins of my ancestors or the experiences that they had. I want to be able to clear up because my mother didn't have the capacity to understand what she wanted to forget. I know what she wanted to forget. And I also know that if I'm not ashamed to say, like, there are people that say, how can you just talk so openly about things? It's made me who I am. What do I care? I mean, that's on you. If you can't take it, no, don't listen. Because I'm not going to live in shame. I'm not going to live in guilt and shame because it makes you feel uncomfortable. Don't ask me stupid questions so I don't give you stupid answers.
Oh, what a great thing for everybody going forward today is, tap in, sit in meditation and tap into where might I be holding on to guilt, shame, resentment,
Mhm.
anger, not just in you, but feel into it going back. Ask your
Yeah,
ancestors to come in and assist you with that and start moving through that and figuring out how you can dissipate it and clear it out.
it's huge. It's huge. And what if you were the person that was picked
To clear it. Yep.
to clear it? I
I
mean,
think there's a
think
lot of
about
us
your job.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're one of them. I think I'm one of them. I've met loads of them.
Yeah, me too.
So I think that's part of the planetary shift, in my opinion,
Mhm.
a big part of it, is clearing all of that, because
You're
now
right.
we're coming forward and we're talking about it. We're bringing in awareness around it so the healing can happen.
Yeah. That was a good one. I like that subject.
I do too. I do too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Everybody share your healing wisdom with us. We'd love
Yeah.
it. Please. It's a safe space below.
I
Bye.
love you.